Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Move the flag over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have the statement in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act?
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting of the Council was provided by transmitting a copy of the meeting notice to the Madison Eagle and Morris County Daily Record, posting a copy on the bulletin board at the main entrance of Boro Hall, and filing a copy in the office of the clerk, all on February 23, 2012. Copies of said notice were made available to members of the general public.
Roll call.
Mayor Conley.
Here.
Mrs. Tsukamoto.
Here.
Dr. Esposito.
Excused, he'll be late.
Mr. Links.
Here.
Mr. Catalanello.
Here.
Mr. Landrigan.
Here.
Mrs. Vitale.
Here.
Welcome, everyone. I will be doing welcomes twice tonight. It's for those that are staying for the extended one. Some of this may be deja vu all over again later on. We are doing a presentation on the revaluation process, but we have to, this is an advertised meeting, so we have to go through some formalities before we get to the presentation. That'll be fairly quick. So I will ask for an agenda review. I think we have right now going into executive session, one contract matter, 2 personnel, 1 litigation. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. May I have a motion that we will go into executive at 6:30 p.m.?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So what the council will do in a few minutes, once we hand this off to our presenters, is we're going to leave our seats here, move in and join you in the audience, as we are all taxpayers too. So we're anxious to listen to this. We'll be walking out of here about 6:30 to go into executive session. It will not be anything that was set up front here. It's just that we have other things to cover before a regular open meeting that starts at 8 o'clock. So I thank you all for coming out here. Again, we have a presentation on the revaluation of real property in the borough of Madison. This is a process that has to go through several, once every 10 or so years. It is not something we request, though we can do it. This is requested by the county. This, what I'm saying now, will be repeated again, but I want to make sure people understand that this is not necessarily our idea. But what it does is it puts our property values back in line with the current market. That doesn't mean taxes change, as you'll be hearing shortly. When they calculate the county taxes, for example, there is a value that puts our property values in line with towns that may be around the 100% level as far as assessment, where we are around the 60%. This is not a method to get more revenue. You'll hear later on tonight, if you stay for the second game, doubleheader, as we talk about the budget. That is very different. This will change the tax rate. It could shift some taxes from one property to another, but typically not. You'll hear a little more detail on that. It's if for people who were in Madison 10 years ago, you would have seen how that affected. The bottom line is the amount of money we raise through taxes today will be the same when the revaluation is complete. We have contracted with certified valuations to do our reassessment in Madison. Madison and certified valuations has a long history. They did our previous revaluation, and they also work with us on all tax appeals. Presenting for certified valuations is our Chief Operating Officer, Cindy Sullivan. So Cindy?
Mayor?
And, yep.
Excuse me for 1 second. Before we do that, I think we need Liz to read the resolution to close, so that way we can just quietly walk out at 6:30.
Thank you for that catch. I appreciate that. So can we have the resolution for closed?
Okay, be it resolved that the meeting will adjourn to an executive session to consider the following matters. 2 minutes for approval, 1 contract matter, 2 personnel matters, 1 litigation matter.
And this will take place at 6:30.
At 6:30.
Correct.
Yes.
So, council, we will now join the audience. And before any of you step up there, I just want to remind, when we leave, the presenters will continue after 6:30 and take all your questions, and they will stay until we cover everything. And one other person I want to introduce in the audience is Lisa Boro. Lisa, there you are, thank you. She is our tax assessor. And so she will be, as she has been, the expert in this whole process, and you may get to know her very well. So thank you for Lisa.
Thank you for the introduction, Mayor. And thank you for having us here tonight to present to you on this program of revaluation. As the Mayor mentioned, we are certified valuations. We are a New Jersey revaluation and municipal appraisal firm located in Randolph, New Jersey. Thank you. We've been municipal. It feels very funny wearing my glasses looking up and down. I'm so sorry. We've been serving New Jersey municipalities for over 40 years, and we are very proud of our courteous and professional staff. We plan to serve the Borough of Madison with transparency, accuracy, but most of all with fairness. Fairness is a very important component of conducting a municipal revaluation. The goal of conducting a revaluation is the equitable distribution of the burden of paying taxes. State law and revaluation. The state of New Jersey mandates that all property be assessed at 100% of true value. It's a very difficult goal to achieve every year. So what they've done has been to establish an equalization ratio. And over the years, the state, county, and municipality examine sales that take place and compare them to the market value of similar properties in the municipality to arrive at the equalization ratio. Very important fact, a revaluation does not raise more money for the municipality. So what is the criteria that would determine whether or not you needed to have a revaluation? Here are a few reasons that the county and state and municipality would examine to determine whether or not it was time. Low average ratio. That ratio that I was talking about, it represents the relationship between the assessed value of your property and the market value, what the property would sell for on an open market. A high coefficient of deviation. Sounds like a complicated scenario. That represents the rate of change around the municipality. Your municipality is divided into different kinds of homogeneous neighborhoods. Different neighborhoods appreciate at different rates. Some neighborhoods may appreciate at 8% a year. At one time we were doing that. And some neighborhoods may appreciate at 2 or 3% a year. And over time, there becomes a skew, and the burden of paying taxes is not equally distributed throughout the municipality. So that coefficient of deviation is the representation of how far away from that 59% your neighborhood is. The number of tax appeals filed in a municipality. If you have a high number of tax appeals and you're spending a lot of time and money on that, you're going to want to think about a revaluation. And the length of time since the last revaluation. It's been approximately 12 years since Madison conducted their last revaluation, and it's fairly timely for Morris County to conduct within that time period. It's fairly responsible. The economic changes that we've all been experiencing with real estate would prompt it, as well as legislation, which is not the case here. I want to stress to you that the Morris County Tax Board ordered this revaluation. It was not something that was chosen by the municipal council. The county tax board took a look at the equalization ratio, and they took a look at the status of the tax appeals and the economic changes in the market, and determined that they would send an order on over to your assessor, Lisa Boro, who would then consult with the administration and council in developing the revaluation program in compliance with the county's order. So we report to the tax assessor reports to the Morris County Tax Board, and the Morris County Tax Board is under the scope of the Division of Taxation in the Department of Treasury. So we report directly to your tax assessor, and again, it is by order of the Morris County Tax Board. So the process, what can you expect in going through this revaluation? The startup, we've completed the startup phase. We've met with the administration, we've established the details and the criteria of what we need to do to complete this program. And we've got, many of you have, I'm sure, received your letters indicating that we're going to be having this meeting tonight, that we're having the revaluation, and we've completed that initial mailing. And then at sometime within the next 6 months, you'll be receiving another mailing indicating that we're going to be coming to your home for an inspection. Currently, we're in the data collection phase of the revaluation, which means that you may see inspectors and photographers walking around your neighborhood. They're going to be carrying tape measure, they're going to be carrying clipboards, maps. They'll each be wearing IDs, and I'll have pictures of them up there. They're going to be worn on a lanyard. And they'll be having an ID also attached to their clipboard. So I'll go into a little bit more detail later about what the inspection phase is looking for. And there'll be photographers also. We're going to photograph the front and rear of your building, of your homes and buildings, and we'll be knocking on the door to ask your permission to enter your backyard. We do ask emphatically that if you do have animals in your home, that you put them behind a closed door and let people know in the house not to let the animal out while our inspectors are on your property. As you can imagine, we go onto a lot of properties and there's quite a few dogs that we need to be aware of. Analysis. We're conducting analysis of the market conditions in Madison throughout this process. We are reviewing sales that have transpired over the past year. We're taking a look at leases and vacancies. What's going on in Madison? What are the economic conditions in Madison? We're in the preliminary phase of doing that, and we're going to move on and continue to watch sales, leases, and economic conditions through October 1 of the pre-tax year, and the tax year will be 2013. We're going to be conducting a program of quality assurance, which means that we'll have another inspector, perhaps myself, coming out to your home, knocking on your door, making sure that our inspectors were courteous, that they accurately collected all of the information that we need to collect, and confirming that the job was done properly. Notification. What I mean here is notification of value. This job is being conducted between now and January of next year will be the final wrap-up. So we'll be conducting our inspections through the summer, and then if anyone's going to be away, there's no need to fret. We'll make sure that we get into your home sometime between now and next January. But we're going to be sending out sometime mid-November our notification of intent to report your preliminary value. In that letter, there's going to be an explanation of how you can go about making an appointment to come in and speak with one of our representatives. Our phone number will be there, the details will be there. You can call up, make an appointment, sit down with one of our reps, and go over your property record card. After that phase has been completed, we're going to review all the information that we've collected. And we'll mail you a final value letter in January. We're going to finalize the book. The absolute latest date that we should put it through would be January 10th. So we're going to finalize the book for use in the tax year 2013 on January 10th. And we'll submit all of our supporting documentation over to the assessor sometime in the end of January. There's a lot more details, and doing a revaluation is very multifaceted, so I could talk for hours about how the job is going to be conducted. So please don't worry if I've missed something. I may hit it later in the program, and we'll be here later to answer questions as well. All in all, I should be talking for about 20 minutes, and then you'll have your time to ask any questions that you may have. Inspections and data collection phase. What's going to happen when somebody comes to my home? Here are a few of our inspectors and photographers. Doug Simcoe in the top left corner is our crew chief and quality control inspector. Frank DeLessio we have with us tonight. Oh my goodness, I forgot to introduce. I have Frank DeLessio here with me tonight, our commercial inspector, and Tom DeCourt, our residential inspector. Frank will be at the commercial properties, Tom will be supervising the data collection for the residential properties, and then Archibald and Dana are our photographers along with Ethan, and Tim and Ted will be doing data collection as well. So their photographs are up here. They're also going to be on our website. The police department has a copy of their photographs, and the municipal, I left one with Lisa, with the municipal assessor, and the administrator has a copy of this. So if you have any concern as to who might be visiting your property, if you can get onto the internet, come onto our website, cdinj.com, and you can look to see who's going to be in your neighborhood. You can also call our office at any time and speak with one of our customer service representatives, and they'll give you a description of the person. If you can't get onto the internet, they'll give you their name and make you feel comfortable with who's coming out. All of our inspectors are provided with this letter of introduction that's signed both by the administration and myself. It has their photograph on it, same photograph that's going to be on the website. So when someone comes to your door, they should be dangling these two IDs, and in addition have that on their clipboard. And they're all very well trained to be sensitive to people's concerns about having people in their homes. So the letter basically says that it's introducing the person by name as well. And that's just another view of the IDs, the front and back, and the ID provided by the municipality that our inspectors and photographers will be carrying. So you know, the photographers are taking exterior photos only. There are absolutely no interior photos taken. Always make sure that you do check IDs when people come to your home. So important information to share during the data collection process. When someone comes to your home, I want to tell you it's not going to take more than 5 to 10 minutes, unless you have a very, very large home or a lot of detail that you need to share with the inspector. They'll walk in, they're going to want to look at your kitchen, the number of bathrooms that you have, they're going to want to look at the bathrooms, they're going to open every door. Do not worry about whether you've done the dishes or made the beds. They really don't care. They just want to move through your house and see what you have. They're collecting data. Overall condition is what we're looking at. It's the structural condition. So if you have information regarding the sale of your property, if it's recent within the past year or two, that you feel might be important to the value, the appraised value of your home, share it with our inspector. If you've listed your home and have had no activity within the past year and you've decided to take it off the market, share that information with our inspector. But what you would also want to share is the broker's name so we could call and verify the details. Any outside influences that are not readily available at the time of our inspection, if you could share that with our inspector as well. And structural or water damage to your home, any easements on your property. We're going to have maps where we're going to be able to see these issues, but just in the event, it's always better to have extra information. We'd rather have too much than take a chance and miss something. So, our inspectors are collecting data in the field. They are not valuing while you're there. If any of you have had a home equity loan or refinanced or gone through the mortgaging process, inspectors come out to your home, they've got their laptops or their tablets, and they conduct pretty much a lot of the appraisal. They're going to be the guys that are conducting the appraisal. These are not the people that are conducting the values or analyzing the sales and the information for values. They're collecting data. Some of them may be people who value, but a majority of them that are out there are not going to be valuing your property. So sharing information with them is important, but expecting a value to come directly from them is not the protocol here. Oh, I just want to leave that up for a minute. And while they're at your home, I did want to mention that we do need to go into your basement and walk through your basement. And if you have a walk-up attic, we'll need to go up into the walk-up attic. If it's an attic that you can stand in, we do not need to pull down and go up any pull-down stairs of attics, unless, of course, there's living area up there. Appointment cards. If we come out to your home and you're not available for an inspection at that time, it's understandable, we'll leave a callback card. The card in the top right is a sample of what it will look like. It's saying that we were at your property and we're going to come back on a particular day between a certain 2-hour time period. If that time period's not convenient for you, go ahead and call the office and we'll reschedule something for you then. If you don't have time to call the office, don't worry about it. Stick the card in your mail or stick it in the garbage and we'll come out again, we'll leave another card and call sometime, please, well before October 1. The card in the bottom left is the second callback card that we will leave. It'll say, we were here at your home and no one was here, we were here twice. Please call to set up the appointment. The analysis phase of the revaluation. We are appraising properties and we're trying to bring them up to 100% of true value. We use a CAMA system, computer-assisted mass appraisal system. It's specific for conducting revaluations, and it's also used by the assessor to maintain her data files going forward after the revaluation. The CAMA system helps us by capturing all of the information relative to what is it that's on your property. What is the structure? What is the size of the structure? How many bathrooms? All of the structural components of your building, as well as the underlying land value. We're going to divide the neighborhood into the municipality into multiple neighborhoods, and it contains all of that information that we can apply our calculations to come up with land values and cost values for your property. There are 3 approaches to valuing property. We use the cost approach, the income approach, and the market approach. For residential properties, it's the cost and the market that are reconciled. For commercial properties, typically, it's the income approach, unless there are special use or industrial properties where the cost approach might apply. So we're going to analyze the sales. We're going to make sure that they're arm's length transactions. In New Jersey, there's something called usable and non-usable sales. We have to be very careful with that term. Many people come in and tell me, well, my neighbor's property sold for such and such. There are conditions surrounding a sale that would make it either usable or non-usable. And the state of New Jersey and the county determine whether it's usable or non-usable. So that percentage, that equalization ratio that I talked about before, uses sales that have transpired in the municipality, and some sales are chosen not to be used, so they'd be on the non-usable list. We'll have a list of those usable and non-usable sales for you at the end of the job, so you can go in and see which ones are appropriate or not. A sales book and a sales map. When we're in the review period, we'll have here in Town Hall meetings or somewhere designated in the municipality, meetings with property owners who want to review their property record card. But what we'll also have available are the sales data books. And the sales data books contain photographs of each of the properties in the sampling period that we use to analyze the data. And they'll have the date of the sale, the amount of the sale, and a few other facts about the sale of that property. We'll also plot a sales data map. We'll have a map of the municipalities, multiple pages, and on each page, any sale that transpired in the municipality will be graphically indicated. So you can open up to your neighborhood and see what is the market activity in your neighborhood. Or you can go to another neighborhood that you feel is similar to yours and see what has been transpiring over the past year or so in that neighborhood. As I mentioned, the word neighborhood comes up a lot. We're dividing the municipality into homogeneous neighborhoods. We're taking a ride through. Tom and Lisa already rode through to neighborhood, the residential portion. What we're doing is we're looking at neighborhoods and combining them into homogeneous neighborhoods that are typically have boundaries of either something geographically or just style. There's a whole lot of Cape Cods in one area, a whole lot of split levels in another area, maybe another area is all Victorians. So we kind of put them together in a homogeneous manner so that we can apply market data appropriately to them. Income and expense data for commercial properties is going to be analyzed. Is there anyone here, if you don't mind, by a show of hands, who has a commercial property in town? 1, 2. All right. So we're going to be sending out to you, and you can speak more afterwards if you have other questions. We're going to be sending out to you requests for income and expense information. And those requests, they have the New Jersey law indicated on it as well. And we're going to do an analysis of the income that's derived from the commercial properties in town, and then we capitalize the net income to come up with the value of the property. So what we need is the lease information and the rental information and expense information. What is Madison experiencing in the market of properties that are open for lease or that are existing, currently having a lease? From that, we'll develop our economic rent report. And the economic rent report will indicate to us and will show us what we can apply to retail space or to restaurant space or banks. Quality assurance. I spoke a little bit before about quality assurance. It's going to be ongoing by our firm throughout the revaluation. Also, periodically through the revaluation, we'll be submitting information to the assessor for her review. We'll be speaking with her on a regular basis, going over the data that we're collecting, some of the situations that we're encountering, and so that's an additional support to our quality assurance phase. We're going to review the data collected and the data entry, our customer service. We're going to make sure that when we come out to the properties that our customer service is where we want it to be. Were you treated fairly? Were you treated kindly? Were you listened to? Were your questions answered? It's very important for me and for our company to know that the people that are out there representing us are doing a great job by making you feel comfortable with the process. We're going to review the information that's received during our quality review, our property owner meetings, and our correspondence and see how that applies to valuing the properties. As I mentioned before, the notifications of value are going to start going out mid-November. It's a preliminary value intent. When you get that letter, the value could change. If you come in and tell us, well, gee, did you know such and such about my property, and we didn't, it may affect value. You may come in and find out that somehow we have you done for 3 bathrooms, but you really have 2. That may affect value. It may not affect value, but it may affect value. So these meetings I find to be very important because I'd like to give people the opportunity to review their property record card and to come in and talk to us and get comfortable with the procedure and make sure that the data that we have collected is accurate. The informal review process is going to be held somewhere here in Town Hall. They're usually about 15 minutes long, and it is done one-on-one. Then we'll conduct our review after the informal review process has concluded. They're also called hearings, but I find hearings to sometimes be a bit of a frightening word, so it really is a review process. So after our review, we're going to review the data that came in. We have forms that we fill out while we're sitting there with everyone, and all of those forms will be processed and will determine whether or not an adjustment needs to be made. Also, if you can't come in for a review, if you're going to be on vacation, or if there's just something pressing going on, you can always have a phone hearing. You can set up an appointment, call in, and we'll go over your information with you on the phone, and it's considered with the same stature that an in-person hearing would be. If you're concerned about what's going on with your property and you can't make the phone call and you can't come in for a meeting, write down your concerns and send them in. We may not respond directly to what your concerns are, but we will certainly make sure that we take a look at your property and see if any adjustment is necessary. The follow-up to this review period. The follow-up to this review period may include remeasuring your home. We may call you up to come out and remeasure. We may be in the neighborhood and stop by to remeasure. We may need to re-inspect or inspect your property for the first time if we can't get into your property for whatever reason, and you come in for a hearing and you tell us that the information that we have is incorrect. We're going to need to get in. So we will be either calling you or stopping by again at that time. There may be a neighborhood where 60% of the neighborhood comes in and wants to talk about such an issue. And it may be an issue that does affect value, and it may be an issue that affects value for the entire neighborhood. So people in that neighborhood who did not come in, they may be receiving a letter as well. So people who are going to receive a follow-up letter are people who came in and people whose values were wrote in or called in, and people whose values were adjusted as a result of our final review. And that's what I just said. Okay, final review letters will be sent to all property owners who attended, requested, and experienced a value change. To finalize the program, the assessor is going to review the values with us through the process. Our land value formulas, our approach to valuing, our data collection. We're going to keep her informed of everything along the way. And at the end, she's going to take a look at the numbers and take a look at the review forms that we've had and determine whether or not we need to make a change. The preliminary tax book will be printed and available for your review. The preliminary tax book is made before the final book is presented and used for taxation. So at that point, the numbers are subject to change. The final tax book is then printed once the review period is concluded, and it's submitted to the county. It does not come through your municipal government. It goes directly to the county. At that time, when you receive your final value letter, if you expected a change and do not see the change that you had anticipated, you can file an appeal with the county tax board. Or you can file an appeal to the state of New Jersey. Suggest that you start with the county, regardless of the value of your property. You can go on to this website right here, www.state.nj.us. You can go on down to Morristown, to the Morris County Tax Board, and obtain a form for filing an appeal. And those forms need to be filed by May 1st in a revaluation year. In a non-revaluation year, keep in mind, it has to be filed by April 1st. So this year it's May 1st, every year until the next.
This year is April 1st, 2012.
Oh, I'm sorry, this year it's April 1st, and then next year, the revaluation year, I'm focused on the revaluation, it will be May 1st, and the following year until the next revaluation, it will be April 1st. How will this revaluation impact my taxes? The purpose is to strictly ensure that the burden of paying taxes is spread equally among all property owners within the municipality. New Jersey state law tells us that we have to value and tax according to property tax value. So we're ensuring that it's going to be done fairly and equitably. It doesn't generate more money for the municipality. And when property taxes increase, property values increase, the tax rate has to be decreased. It happens time and time again. Do not apply the existing tax rate to your new value. It will make you very upset. It's probably double what it's going to be after the revaluation. And something else that I do want to point out is that Robert Califit, your CFO here, has put together a nice presentation which used to be on the town's website, talks about the budget and how the budget is appropriated. And when you look at your tax rate, the tax rate is divided into supporting the municipality, but not only the municipality, it supports the school and the county. So it might be interesting for you to take a look at how that's divided up as well. These two charts, I don't know what that is. These two charts indicate the change in your tax rate before and after a revaluation. On the left, we have the borough of Morris Plains. You can see the increase over time from 1998 to 2008. It went from 1.9% to 3.162. After the revaluation, it dropped to 1.725. The tax rate does change after the revaluation. Here in Madison Borough, we did the last revaluation for the year 2000. The year previous to the revaluation, the tax rate was 3.82. The year after the revaluation, it was 1.7. So just by natural mathematics, the tax rate does have to go down. And most people are very nervous because when they get that letter and they see the new value and they apply the existing tax rate, the result would make anyone nervous. So you do have to know that the rate will be changing. We don't know what the rate is going to change to, however. All of the budgets have to be submitted and approved and accepted and processed, and then applied to this new value of the municipality. So sometime in August, you'll be finding out what your new tax rate, your new tax rate is going to be. The first 2 quarters will be based on what it was before, and then we'll have a catch up the second part of the year. So it's impossible to know right now what the new tax rate is going to be. And again, it does not raise more money for the municipality. The goal is equitable distribution. And thank you for your interest in the program. I hope I answered any questions that you might have, and we're here to answer questions. Yes, sir. What is your name?
My name's John.
John?
Just a couple of questions. I understand everything you said, so these are just clarification questions. What parameters are used to form the evaluation? What you mentioned so far was structural elements of the house.
Right.
Number of rooms, I guess, that would include, and number of bathrooms you mentioned specifically.
Right.
What else relative to the house? Are there more parameters that go into the evaluation?
Yes, there are. There are. When we come out to take a look at your homes, residential structures and commercial structures, there are so many details that we need to capture. We need to know what style of house it is, what kind of roof you have on your house. Is it a gable, gambrel, hip, flat roof? We look at your overall condition of your home. How many rooms are in the home in its entirety? How many bedrooms you have? How many floors you have? Whether or not you have a basement or a crawl space, garage attached, detached, whether or not you have a pool, if you have any additional buildings on your property. We're going to take a look at sheds over 10 by 10, under 10 by 10 are fairly insignificant. And then just generally the overall interior and exterior condition.
And is the location of the house, which specific neighborhood it's in, factor into the valuation?
You mean like at the corner or the end of the street?
If I have the exact same house in two different neighborhoods in Madison,
Yes,
is the valuation different?
it can be. If you have the exact same house in two different neighborhoods and one neighborhood has a generally overall higher value, that can, it can influence the value on that property. If you're in an inferior neighborhood, it will also influence the value.
So your goal then, although this isn't the same type of valuation a realtor would come in and tell you, this is what I think you can sell the house for.
That's correct.
Is that what your goal is, to try to figure out what's the market value of the house now?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're trying to crawl into the mind of the investor and determine how much, based on the sales that we've seen and the market conditions as we've seen it, what could we fairly expect that this value could trade on the market for?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yes, sir.
Michael Hyman, thank
Hi,
you for
Michael.
your presentation.
Sure.
Could you name some of the other towns in New Jersey of similar size and makeup as Madison that you value?
Sure. Well, Morris Plains, I would say. What can you get for some of me? We did Cedar Grove, Morris Plains in Morris County. We've done Madison before. We've done Lincoln Park. I've done a lot of towns, and I'm trying to put them together. I did Summit many years ago. On our website is a listing of all the municipalities. I don't know why, but I'm tongue-tied
That's all
here.
right. You mentioned that, and actually I mentioned, we were aware that our current assessed value is about 59% of what I guess the county considers to be the full market value for all of those. If you look at that 100% number, is that a static or an elastic number? Meaning you're just solving for totaling all the properties to reach that specific number, or that's the county's estimate.
It's an average ratio.
So that if you raise someone's property value $10, it doesn't have to come down $10 to someone else's property.
Okay, it sounds like there's two things there. The 59.3% is an average ratio throughout the municipality. It doesn't mean that every single home or property within the municipality is at 59.3%. It's an average ratio, and that's where the coefficient of deviation factors in, because that's what shows you how far away from that average the different properties are.
Okay, one last question.
Yes.
This is a hard one. If you have a property that has been unimproved since, or has not been improved since the last assessment, in your experience with other towns similar to this one, maybe with the last Madison assessment, would the owner of that property then expect their percentage of valuation to the total town's valuation to go down relative to properties that had been knocked down and rebuilt, or those that had had substantial improvements?
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that.
Thank you.
If you have a property from the last revaluation and no change has occurred in the past 12 years, It depends on the market conditions. The market could make that property more valuable now. We don't know. We have to take a look at the sales that transpired. So homes that are in the $400,000 range at one time may not have been as attractive. Now they may be more attractive. So that market may be more solid. Does that answer your question? It may or it might.
Hi,
Yes.
my name's Steve.
Hi, Stephen.
For instance, yeah, that's what you said. My wife just bought a house 14 months ago, and it was basically unrepaired the whole time since the last evaluation.
Yes.
And we've been in there and tried to put the windows in, the garage doors, and the floors, and the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you're asking. Is that gonna, we're paying a lot of tax already.
Stephen, when did you complete those changes?
They're still ongoing.
They're still ongoing? Some of that may have been absorbed in added assessments already, so if you felt any change to your tax bill since you bought the home, if you had permits on those improvements, and if they've been picked up by the assessor, you may have already experienced the increase in taxes, because when you improve your property, New Jersey law is such that what your property is valued at, that's how you're taxed. So if you've improved your property, it may have already been picked up, and you may have already felt some of that impact. I hope that's the case for you.
So if you put $30,000 into a house,
Yes.
and then the town happens to raise the taxes very heavily by it, and the valuation skyrockets, you just can't get popped with taxes.
You don't know that. You don't know. It could increase, but you don't know that the $30,000 that you put in is going to be like dollar for dollar increasing your obligation. You don't know that that's going to happen. It might not. We don't know where you're starting from. You might be starting really down low to begin with, in comparison to the rest of the municipality. Because that 59% means it's an average across the town.
That's the only thing I can say.
So you might be at 40% already. So when we bring you up to 100, you've got like a little bit of cushion room there, hopefully. Yes, sir.
The brochure mentions recent sales. How far back in time do you go to look at sales transactions?
Typically, in this market, we're looking back a year.
We'll look at 2011 and 2012 sales. If there's a shortage of sales, which there doesn't seem to be in Madison, we'll keep going back. But the closest to the evaluation date, which is October 1st of the pre-tax year, so in this case, it's October 1st of 2012. The sales that are closest to that date will show us where the market truly is. And then as we have to go back, we will.
So more recent ones will get greater weight.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then in looking at comparable sales, what factors determine that? Is it same square footage? Is it proximity?
Proximity, size, and style would be the first 3 points we look for. It's possible that perhaps a neighborhood of Cape Cod homes, there aren't any sales of Cape Cods and there's sales of colonials near it. I'd rather go away from the location and find other Cape Cod homes because the best is to be apples to apples. Not in every situation can you do that. There are custom homes and other situations that affect the property, so you look for the most comparable you can. Same as you would for a bank appraisal for a purchase. It's the same criteria that's used in that situation.
So if the neighborhood that you create doesn't have any comps, you might have to go elsewhere in town to look for it.
Absolutely.
And what happens if there really aren't any comps?
I can tell you that that's not the case in Madison so far that I've seen.
Okay.
But if that were really truly the case, we would have to open our scope a little wider and perhaps look at surrounding municipalities that have a homogeneous neighborhood of similar style, and then try to figure out what is the market difference between Chatham Borough and Madison Borough, or something of that nature.
Okay.
Let's hope we don't have to do that.
Yes, sir, against the wall.
Yeah, I'm looking at sales that are not included for comparison. Sales between family members I can understand. Distress sales, I'm not sure what constitutes a distress sale exactly. And there's this certain other types of sales that I really am very interested in.
Okay, the state of New Jersey puts out a listing publication, maybe I should put it up on our website, and that details all of the criteria for each of those exclusions. There's numerous exclusions. There are about maybe 30 of them, 33. And, you know, sale between family members, a distressed sale could be death in the family, a loss of a job, a relocation.
Foreclosure, a bankruptcy, a divorce, there's a lot of possibilities to distress. The list is available at the state's website, or the state of taxation. Some counties, and I think Morris County is one of them, that will also give you the usable and non-usable code list. So it is attainable, ascertainable on the internet. But arm's length transactions between willing sellers and willing buyers that have been open to the market, that's really what we're concentrating on. That's what we're looking for. If perhaps there's a neighborhood in town or a whole town, in the case of Dover in Morris County, where it turns out that short sales are starting to set the market for that town, then even though they're non-usable, I should clarify that when the state deems a sale non-usable, it's non-usable for sales ratio study. So it's when they develop that 59.3% ratio for the town, they have excluded sales that they feel will skew the average ratio. Same with in tax appeals, we try to find arm's length transactions. There are some non-usable codes that are stricken to properties, like a property that's knocked down and rebuilt will get a non-usable code sometimes, depending on where it falls in the part of the year. But that may still show true market value for a new constructed home in that town. So we would consider it. It's really about the weight. Now, in Madison, bankruptcy sales are not a trend. So for those, we still look at them. We still put them in our spreadsheet, but the weight given to them is very low. I hope that's
You know, when we get to see the maps, are we going to see which ones are excluded?
You will. There's the usable and non-usable codes. Well, if it's usable, there's no code. But the non-usable codes will be attached to each sale.
And you can go on the website for the Morris County Tax Board. It's New Jersey Association of County Tax Boards.org. It's the acronym for that. It's njactb.org. Yes, sir.
At the time your representative enters the House, does his gathering of data, by the time he leaves, are we able to receive a copy of what he has put together?
At that point, no.
So the data in, data out thing, we get to see it at some point.
You do. Yes, you do get to see it after it's been, because he's going to be writing things down and making notes, and it's not going to be very, it's going to be done with codes because there's so much information that needs to be collected.
I understand that, but on the other hand, counting the number of rooms, whether it does or doesn't have an attic or a basement, the number of bathrooms, the number of kitchens, etc., that should be basic, and that should be a form that maybe we should have.
Well, you can take a look at it while he's there or she's there. You can certainly take a look at it before they leave.
At the end of the process, to just go a little further, at the end of the process when you receive your first letter in the mail with a value on it, at that point, when Cindy was speaking of informal hearings where you could come in one-on-one, at that point, all of that data is there. You can see the sketch of your home, how many stories it is, how many bathrooms, what are the conditions of the bathrooms, what is the overall condition of the home. All of that data, the square footage, the room count, basement finish, if it's good basement finish or bad basement finish, all of that is there at your exposure at that point for you to take a look at.
When you use the term the condition of the room or the condition of the house, what are we talking about? Are you talking about cleanliness? Are you talking about granite? What are you talking about?
Cleanliness, clutter, and messes we don't really see. We see holes in walls. We see peeling paint or a kitchen from 1942. Those are the things we see. Wood paneling in your basement versus a basement that looks like this. It can go either way in Madison. Those are the things that we see. And it's based upon, if you're in a neighborhood of Cape Cods built in the 50s, and we have sales of Cape Cods built in the 50s, that's what we're going to compare them to. So that home that's average in that area may not be average in a different area of town. That's why we're really trying to keep it homogeneous and apples to apples.
Will you be doing corporations such as Gerald Farms as well as your university?
Yes. Yes, all the properties within the borough. There are about 4,600 properties. Those are called exempt properties, the university, and the commercial properties as well.
Rosanna, I live in an area that in the past 7 years has exploded with brand new construction. In fact, we have more bigger mansion type of homes than smaller ones. How would that affect the revaluation, given that my home stayed the same, no changes?
Is your home a newer home as well?
No.
No.
When we start to evaluate the sales, we're going to try to create land formulas. Your assessment is broken into two parts, the land, the quote-unquote land allocation of value and the improvement allocation of value, and then there's the total assessment. What you'll find in a neighborhood like that where it's really in flux, it's really coming up, and there are different levels of home, whether it's some splits, that's the majority, maybe it was originally split levels, and now the people are buying them just to knock them down. That really gives us an idea of what the land is worth, because even though there was a home on it that may have been in a certain condition, they knocked it down and really bought it just to put up a new home and resell it. Where we're still going to see that those homes were selling for, I'll use arbitrary numbers, $300,000 to $400,000, and now they've got the new home up and that one sells for $850,000. Well, those like new homes in your neighborhood are going to be assessed somewhere near the $850,000 mark. The land value may hold true between your home and the brand new home next door, but the actual improvement portion of the assessment is going to reflect the 1,700 square foot split level home built in 1972 that's in average condition. So that's where the difference is made up in classification, size, and style.
Anyone else?
I'm a little confused as to how you come up with comparables for land value, which is, I guess, a very large part of this assessment. So, it isn't as if you had every
what we use this method called extraction. What it is with the two approaches to the residential side of value, the cost approach, the Division of Taxation has issued us a cost manual. It's the assessor's manual for the cost of what things are. Every year they figure out and determine what the cost to build a structure new is. So what happens is if we have a neighborhood and there are some sales in the neighborhood and we go out and measure the house and we know what's in it and we know the size and we put that into the computer and it takes that information and applies it to the cost approach manual, which has all the prices, comes from Marshall Swift and the builders in the area, and they've developed this cost. It gives us a number, and then we depreciate the home because not every home is new. So the cost approach gives us the improvement value new for just the structure, and then it's depreciated for time, for its condition, for things that may be flawed. And it gives us a number. And then out of that, we take the total sales price and we extract the improvement values out, and it leaves us with a remainder. That remainder we generally apply to the land. We have an algorithm that gives us that breakout. So in every neighborhood, we put all the sales into a spreadsheet and list them all, and then after they're accurately depicted in our computer-aided mass appraisal system, which is CAMA, and we pull out the extracted numbers for the improvements, we're going to start to see that we have a cluster of homes, and they're selling in this range, and after we put the information in, it extracts it out, and we're seeing that the land is roughly 325,000, 350,000. And so that's how we come up to our land formulas. If in a neighborhood, in the perfect world, we would have 100 by 100 lots, and some of them would have houses, and some of them wouldn't have houses, and then we could actually see a sale of just raw land. There are a few of those in Madison, but for the most part, most of our sales are already included.
I guess that's what the key number is what you're going to subtract, or what you're going to assess as the value of what's on the land.
Right.
It seems to me that's a constantly changing number, a very difficult number.
Well,
it's not like standard comparables where you can look at a real estate report and say, oh yes, houses of that nature, they're selling for money, because what's in the house is quite different.
Well, that's why we hope to get in all of them, so we can determine what's in the houses. And we can see that. Perhaps the only thing selling in the Cape Cod neighborhood is Cape Cods that have been refurbished, and they all have new kitchens, and we can see that. The MLS can show us photographs. And those sales too. Actually, that's what I'm currently doing. If you see me on the street, I'm out looking at current sales and even active listings. If we see that all those Cape Cods have all been refurbished and that has a certain value, then we can make a determination through depreciation that the home with the original kitchen and baths probably would have a harder time selling, it probably would sell for less. And that's through analysis and study, that's just what we're going to be able to develop.
Yes, sir.
I close on Thursday in residence here in town. Now, the valuation that I have with the closing, is that going to change?
The assessed value on your property is going to change, regardless of whether or not you closed, just because you closed doesn't mean that we change it now. It's going to change for next year's tax book. Your sale, if it's an arm's length transaction, and if it's a usable sale, we will consider using that sale in doing our analysis and placing the value on your property for next year.
Your sale is going to help us to find value of the neighborhood homes in your direct area.
If it's a usable sale.
If it's an arm's length transaction, we'll find out. We review the sales very thoroughly. Well, the state does, the county does, and then we do. We will call realtors, we will call closing attorneys, we look at the deeds. Lisa and I were pretty close on following stuff and keeping our charts and our graphs, and so we're going to do everything we can to ascertain whether in fact it was an arm's length transaction or not.
One other question real quick. Your program, is it going to be posted online at all?
I hadn't planned on doing that.
I think that would be really great.
Would you?
Sure.
Like that? Yeah, I'll consider it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
In Madison, we're fortunate enough to have a number of historic districts, both, for the residential areas and in a commercial area. What kind of consideration do you give those kinds of areas that are very restricted in what they can and can't do?
They will be considered hopefully with only their own time. The zoning map, in other words, the zoning map for Madison has defined exactly where the historic areas are for us. We are aware of that, and as it stands right now, they're in their own neighborhood, and they're hopefully going to only compare to themselves. If there were no sales transactions of historic neighborhood homes since 2010 till October 1st of 2012, we could be in trouble, but we do have some sales, so we're going to try to keep it inside that number.
Another point, on the commercial properties, we're going to be going by leases. We're looking for lease data, expenses, to come up with a value on the property, commercial properties. That's why it's important when we send out the income that it's properly filled out and sent back in.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, a bit of a change of pace. The information that you collect,
Yes.
how is that information controlled and who has access to that information? Is it only used for this purpose, or is it made available to other entities within the borough or the county? Who has access to the information?
We collect the information. It is stored locally on our hard drive. At the end of the job, it's turned over to the assessor's office. The assessor shares portions of it with the county, and a portion of it, called the Mod 4, is shared, and that's just the legal descriptive data pertaining to your home: block, lot, location, owner's name. They know where to send the tax bill. That's shared with your tax collector. But other specifics, we are not in business for distributing to other people. It's just simply between our firm and the assessor's office.
And I'm not sure where you were going, but if I could just add on to that as an example. If you had a finished basement and you didn't take a permit for your finished basement, I don't know, and I'm not going to check. I'm there to see what's there. And I'm going to list it as a finished basement, and I'm going to value your home as if it has a finished basement, whether it should or shouldn't be there. I'm not concerned. I'm not checking the permit. I'm not going to the building department to say, hey, did 42 such and such lane have a permit for the basement because it seems shady or something of that nature. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my home was built in 2000, and I did an outside addition on it in roughly 2005, and was reassessed shortly thereafter. So I would say overall, since then, property values have not gone up, they have gone down. Are you expecting to find property values like mine that perhaps might actually have been flat to down?
Here's
And
the
how do you how do you address that and assess that?
Here's the interesting thing. What we're going to try to do is figure out what is the value of your home as of October 1st of 2012. What your assessment
So
is
it's going forward?
as of October 1st of 2012.
That's going forward.
That's right. We're going to figure out what, well, don't forget, this process is going to take till January. So eventually we'll be looking
I
at it.
came in late, so no, I didn't know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
But
sure.
as far as your home and its assessment, you are still considered to be assessed at only 59.3% of actual 100% value. So after you did the addition and you were given an added assessment, all those things were still considered. You're still considered to be at the average ratio of 59%. As of October, you came in late and missed that part too?
I missed that part too.
The average ratio, in other words, everybody's assessment in town is somewhere within 59% of true value, of market value. The program of revaluation is going to reset everybody, townwide, every piece of property, to 100% of value. There's no more ratio involved. It's actual true value. So your new assessment probably is going to be higher than your old assessment because you're considered now to be at an average of 59%. Perhaps you're overassessed and you're actually somebody that's past that at 70% or 65%.
I think it's pretty accurate.
So
You know,
maybe
my
you're,
tax bill, so, you know, my tax bill, say, maybe built on my house at what it says.
okay.
What's that?
I'm sorry, what was the last?
How would you be able to address that? Let's say my tax bill says my house is addressed between my property and the structure at 500,000. And let's say it looks like it's about like.
That's why there is a revaluation, because there's not a steady level, and we're not sure what it should be, so we're going to make it 100% across the board, no matter what. If your home's worth $350,000, that's what your assessment's going to be. If it's worth $5, it'll be $5. If it's worth $2 million, it's going to be $2 million. Yes, sir.
Yeah, but just to be clear, I think what you said was not correct. If the average was 56 or 59%, that doesn't, you don't assume that everyone's at 59%. Some are higher than that, some are lower.
Some are
It's
higher.
simply the average.
Some are
So
higher.
if she was assessed yesterday, based on today's market valuation, she's not at 59%, she's at about 100%, right?
That's what it sounds like she's saying. She sounds like if what you're saying is
She's at
correct.
100%.
Because she was just assessed.
She was, her added assessment, when the revaluation happened in 2000.
No, she was reevaluated.
Sir, just hear me out. Let me try to finish for you, because I think when I get to the end of my point, you'll understand. When they reassessed the whole town in 2000, they set values with criteria in the year 2000. Every reassessment, every new home, everything that happened post that was still looked at with the same eyeglasses of the year 2000. So supposedly, she was built in 2000. She changed it in 2005, which was approximately when she received her last added assessment. It still looked through and used the same system that they used in 2000.
I see, because otherwise then her taxes would go up dramatically.
It would be really
Everyone else is
bad.
9 or 10 years behind.
Right. If I bought my house today in Madison, or let's say a year ago, and I bought it for $1 million, they're not going to reassess me for $1 million because they can only assess it at $1 million times. It's a new home, so it never had an assessment before. Now it's going to be $1 million times 59%, and then that will become its assessment. Yes, sir.
Given the market, it seems to me that what's equally as important as what sold is what hasn't sold. So what might you be doing differently this time around in talking with realtors and going over MLS stuff that went on the market, came off the market because there were just no buyers?
We will certainly look at that when we examine the multiple listing. We have access to it. We look at expired listings. We look at withdrawn listings. We even look at active listings. Our valuation date is basically we can use all the sales data up to October 1st. But we're not going to be short-sighted. We have until January 10th to create the final values. So if we see closings in November, it's going to give us an idea of, hey, you know, Madison's stable, Madison's sinking, Madison's going up. Or maybe, and what happens is, not all of Madison is stable, sinking, or going up. But this section is going this way, and this section is going that way, and we need to be on top of it for sure. But there's no telling. If sales tell us that value is what it is as of October 1st, and then something horrendous happens and values plummet, we're stuck to what we thought it was in October 1st of 2012.
Right, but that's still October 2012. I'm talking about a house that may have been on the well, no one's going to give us the price we're looking for, we're going to just take it off. That in effect sort of sets up an upper bound on something.
We would have to do some research to see what happened. The market is a funny thing. Sometimes, I mean, I'm not a realtor, but it seems to me in my research, sometimes if you set your price too high, you sort of jinx the house and it never sells, even though you're lowering it to where it should be. It ends up selling for less because it's been on the market so many days and it has a stigma attached to it. The real estate market is funny with a stigma, you know. So it's all those things. It's all those things considered. The best data, though, isn't the withdrawn listings or the expired listings. It's the listings that sold and as close to the date as possible. If I have 10 homes that sold and one that was expired and never sold, where do I look for my average?
Yeah, if you've got that, then you've got a great neighborhood, but you're more
True.
likely to find a neighborhood with sort of 10 homes that were on the market and then withdrawn.
We'll find out.
Tom, you mentioned sales maps before. Are there examples of the homeowners?
When they're complete, when you get that first letter, the sales map and the sales book will be at the meetings. You can look at them then, and it'll exist in the assessor's office. Anybody can look at it anytime, but that won't be till November.
So we're going to look at any house, right?
Every house, I'm sorry.
So you can look at the evaluation of any house, any town.
Everyone, even vacant land, and
Is it
exempt
internet?
properties.
Is it the internet or do they have to come here?
We'll also have it on the internet. We'll also have it on our website. The sales information, photos of the sales and information about the sales will be posted.
Is the assessed value typically used by realtors to price their home from market sale?
I have no idea what realtors do. I've seen some crazy stuff one way or the other, so I couldn't tell you. I hate to put words in a realtor's mouth.
Yeah, but the information you get will be used by realtors too.
No, we don't
They have
distribute
no
it.
access to that.
But they don't have access to it.
Published assessed.
Right, here's one thing though, when the job is complete and the book is printed, everything becomes public record. So you could go in and look at anybody's assessments or even anybody's property record card if you wanted to. But that exists, it exists now that way. You know, you can look at anything you want, it's public record. Any other questions?
You probably know that Revaluation company is under construction in Madison, and how does that fall under assessment and valuation?
Could you repeat the question, please?
You probably know the Revaluation company is under construction in Madison.
Park Avenue.
Right. So how does that play into assessment and property values?
If and when they are complete, they probably won't be complete by the time the end of the revaluation. We may end up putting a partial assessment on them. But we're going to develop the same thing as we do with any other commercial property. We're going to get the income and expenses and capitalize the market data, capitalize the income into a value. But that building may take on 2 years to finish.
So it'll be assessed for what's currently on the property at the time, on October 1st. Whatever's been built, whatever's been completed at that point in time.
Thank you guys very much. I hope it was informative and you guys were also nice.
Yeah, I don't know how to get out of that.
Here's the record.